when the lane moving fast. Hey, let them all cross. If they hate, then let them hate and make a bigger boss. Hey.
This episode is brought to you by SPI Logistics, the premier freight agent logistics firm in North America. For over 40 years, SPI has been diligently building the most successful freight agent network to provide first-class relationships for our shippers, receivers, and carrier partners. We are more than another transportation network. We are a dedicated team of professionals united by one singular purpose, and that is to expedite our agents' success. All of our agents are set up for success on day one, as they are provided with a full suite of support staff that is ready to assist them with everything from after-hours emergencies to financial and administrative needs on a no-fee basis. This way, you can focus on continuing to grow your business. There is no financial risk to start, and you have the ability to earn up to 75% in commissions. If you are looking to take control of your financial future and build your business with the backing of one of the most successful logistics firms in North America, visit www.spi3pl.com to learn more. Do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you. Hey guys, before we jump into the episode, I wanted to let you know it is brought to you by the NMFTA. Let me ask you a question. Do you ship LTL freight? Then listen up, because the NMFC changes went live on July 19th, and they're the biggest updates in the history of freight classification. Now more than ever, accuracy matters. That's why carriers, shippers, and brokers alike are turning to Class IT Plus, the NMFTA's new digital platform for real-time NMFC data. Stop guessing, start classifying smarter, and quote freight with confidence. It's time to get your ship together because the NMFC changes are already here. Learn more at nmfcchanges.com and get started with Class IT Plus at classitplus.com. Just do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines, but most importantly, provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals because at the end of the day, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve. So you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Thursday, everybody. I got a very special guest for you guys. He's been on the show in the past, but like I say, I want to highlight people who've done what you're looking to do. And, there's so much content going on around why you should become leave your W-2 and go 1099 or become an independent agent and everything else. And we're going to talk about our experiences in doing that because both of us have done that and are doing that. And, is it as good as people want to make it out to be at times? And we're going to break all that down and break the realities of it. So I have my man, Erik, AKA Sage Larson, back on the show. Erik, Sage, thank you so much for joining me.
Hey, what's going on, bro? Thank you for having me back on. Yeah, I think there's a good topic to talk about. I think it's definitely a good topic now in regards to everything that's going on with the economy and stuff like that, because that's switching from that W-2. It might not be because you wanted to do it. It might be because someone else kind of forced you out of that position. It could have been a layoff, could have been a slowdown in what the industry that you were in. And then you're kind of wondering, where the hell do I go here? Like, now what do I do? Right. So yeah, I think it's a great topic.
Dude, to me, I always look at it as everything sounds great when you have the comfort of getting a direct deposit every 2 weeks. Like the allure of going out on your own sounds fantastic when they're like, oh, work your own hours and everything else, like work-life balance and yada, yada. Like there's so much of a push for it. And again, you can achieve all of that stuff in due time, but I just want people to be prepared for like what it actually takes. And then especially my main thing to a lot of people who come to me and they're like, hey, I kind of want to go out on my own and I want to explore becoming an agent. My first question to them is, A, do you have enough capital to live, for starters? And then B, have you ever actually sold before? Or were you given a book of business through attrition and you want to take that with you? And then what is your plan if those customers don't come? And that normally stops a lot of people in their tracks because they start to take stock of their experience in the industry. And they're like, well, I guess I never really did that. And because it's like there's a big difference between being a hunter and a farmer. Both roles hold a lot of value in there. But like if you've never had to hunt for new business to get your revenue up and running, it's a lot different mentality. And it takes a lot of willpower, we'll call it, to get something off the ground if you have no revenue coming in.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the first things that people need to ask themselves when they go to do this, right? Because a lot of people want to jump into that and they're like, yeah, I can get an LLC. Sure. Maybe $300, depending on what state. Let's just use as a reference number. But not understanding what that means and where to go from there is kind of the direction that I see a lot of people start to flounder, right? They get the LLC and then they say, okay, I got my LLC and I want to do this. I know freight. I've been in logistics. I think I can do this. But I think one of the first things you almost have to say is, if I were to come to you and say, okay, what do you think running your own business is? Like, tell me what you think it is first. Because there's a lot of times I hear people say, well, I want to set my own hours and take the time off and do this. And I'm like, I haven't been able to do that for years. I mean, I don't get, last time, somebody mentioned me that, oh, I have PTO. I'm like, what's PTO? Personal time off? I'm like, never heard of it. So if you're coming into that thinking that that's, you're doing this because you can work less and take this off, you're kind of starting out wrong. You really want to start out realizing that it's going to take 99% of your time in those first years, but it's that hard push now that'll get you to a better level moving forward as you grow your company and bring additional people on. But if that first push is something that, if you can make that first 3 years, if you can make that first hard push and focus and batten down and realize this is all in, then it can pay off if you can do that.
Yeah.
And I kind of compare it sometimes that like people will go from high school to college, and a lot of times they're like, oh, forget this. This is hard. What's going on here? But the ones that say I'm going to focus down and use this to my advantage, not just be another person sitting in a class, then it works. And you got to have that, like you said, that survivor killer drive that basically says, I'm going to do this and I'm going to, push forward to do this. And a lot of it comes with educating yourself, which there are unlimited tools, hence this podcast alone, that you can use for those educational tools to move you forward.
I also think, because that's, the personal freedom portion of that you're talking about right there, Eric. And that's another thing that comes about. And it's a very real thing, but freedom can be a curse to the wrong person, because I don't know if enough people understand how structured they really are and operating inside of a system that they have. And that's a hurdle that you have to come across, right? And that's why it's like, I look back because, I'll be self-employed now for 6 years in like 2 months, right? So I'm damn near there.
Yeah.
When I first started out, yeah, man, I was working 7 days a week, 10, 12 hours a day, because I didn't know what I was doing. I was literally scrambling and going in every single direction, just with a giant trying to figure it out mentality. And then now, like, dude, I am a lot more structured. I am a lot more disciplined in my time now, to where it's like, yeah, I do work Monday through Friday, because let's be real, you guys, Saturdays and Sundays, very rare that you're going to be moving freight. Not saying that you don't, but in my business, my customers are Monday through Friday. We have freight moving over the weekends, but like, I'm not making sales calls on a Saturday because nobody's there, right? And for me, it's like, how do you get it to where you get your critical tasks done in a set amount of time every single day? And that freedom, it sounds great. It sounds alluring, but it will also be, to the wrong person, it will be your death sentence. Because for me personally, I'm just going to use Chris Jolly as the example here, because I like to do that.
Yeah.
I struggled early on when I was working out of my home, because I have a hard time separating that home mentality from work mentality, even to this day. So like, I have an office. I have a completely separate area. I don't have like a home office. that I operate on a full-time basis. Like I have a small one that I do for like nights and weekend stuff if I'm doing updates, but like mine Monday through Friday, I go to my own office because I need to be able to turn it on and turn it off.
Yeah.
Because it's like when I'm at the office, man, that's when like that kill or be killed mentality comes out. When I'm at home, dude, I want to like chill. You know what I mean? So it's like I need that clear separation. It's just what works for me.
Yeah, and I've got 25 years basically running my own business, and not having any other income in regards to that. Now, I'm a little bit opposite than you. I have a very difficult time going to the home aspect because to me, I'm always at work, right? I'm always at work. So it's these two different type of mindsets that we have are two different perfect examples of the type of people that can be out there, right? So for me, it's like, the phone, although I move over dimensional freight also, so my guys are either shut down or something like that. Some of my legal loads, I might have to be an on call on the weekend, but mostly it's Monday through Friday, right? So, obviously you're back on call. If you get a phone call saying, there was an accident or something or snow, I can't deliver, things like that. We got to make changes. We got to send emails, update. But you're right. It becomes something that it is going to become who you are. And you're going to have to, like I said, it's that focus on, can I do this? Even the structure that you just said, in regards to, okay, am I doing cold calls? Am I making check calls? Like what's my Monday look like? What's my Tuesday going to look like? It is harder because now you're setting your schedule that you have to do. It's not somebody coming in and saying, oh, here's your schedule. It's you setting your schedule, and you better have one, because the minute you break that, it's very easy just to get, you're in a spiral and you're all over the road. And that's kind of something that takes time to learn. Now, there's a lot more technologies now that can help you with AI and TMSs and stuff. I mean, I remember doing this with PDFs and spreadsheets, mess, compared to the, Revinova and stuff that we have now. Like I stepped into Revinova and I'm like, holy crap, is this NASA? Compared to what I, used to use. But there's so many tools in there that it helps out. Like you can do it if you have the knowledge and you take the time to learn some of the technologies that are going to benefit you. It's a little easier to keep that structure, but it's still you and your mental state that has to keep that structure, and that's difficult.
I want to touch on that, right? Because I think that it's, again, when you're in that comfortable environment of getting a paycheck and everything else coming in, you don't think that things will ever get challenging, right? Because again, when you're in that system, it's a little bit different. If you lose a customer, yeah, you might get apprehended by your boss, but like, or not apprehended, but you know what I mean? Like you might get in a little bit of trouble with your boss, but like you're still going to have a paycheck. You're still going to be able to go out there and, maybe you have some other accounts in your possession that you can work and possibly grow. But like when you're out there on your own, and because like, again, back to like what I was saying about the brute force that it takes to get stuff off the ground in any environment, right? Whether it's a good market, bad market, it doesn't matter. It's never easy to develop business, right? Like that is a very large misconception out there, because businesses who are shipping freight of any size are good no matter what's going on, because they have so from my perspective is you got to ask yourself, are you willing to push through that inevitable wall that you hit? Because and I just put a post out there about this yesterday, it's like we all hit it, right? Whether it's you're going through your sales calls, you just get rejected a bunch of times, or maybe somebody's rude to you on the phone, they hang up, and it's that mental, it's your ego that starts to kick in, like, man, why do these guys not like me? Why does nobody want to onboard me? Why, is this worth it to me? Maybe I should just quit and go back and get a job. Like I honestly think, because again, most people don't even start, right? Like they stop in the feel good thoughts, and then they get too scared to even start. But then when you do start and you do get that first slap in the face of reality, I think that's when the majority of people quit. They don't push through those early moments, and those walls, those hurdles are insurmountable feeling in the very beginning, especially when you have no money coming in, and especially if you got a family to feed. Like I know the mental state that I was in early on starting all of this off. I'm like, man, I got a family to feed. What am I going to do if this person says no, or if I don't get revenue coming? Like I'm done. And it's a mental gymnastics that's going on.
Yeah, and it takes, like I said, and I think some of the things that, and I've been doing a series on my channel, building a trucking empire, because having a CDL, being an owner operator, a carrier, and
Yep.
everything, and freight broker. Um, I You have to look at what can I be doing now as a W-2 employee? What can I be doing now to get myself better prepared, for going out on my own? Is it learning software? Is it taking maybe a little bit of a business course? Like, what can I be doing now to basically do that? And if you can start to take the steps and you're like, yeah, I'm going to start to take my steps, that's the first steps to take to see if you could actually go on your own. If you're willing to take the time to take a Saturday and take a economics 101, supply and demand, things like that, outside of that. Okay, yeah, I took that. Now what's next? And you're starting to see that you're pushing yourself through that. Then you're going to have a better chance in pushing yourself to the next step and to the next level, right? And so I always recommend people, hey, if you're wanting to do this, start preparing yourself now. Either learn a software, learn something that's going to benefit you, learn how to budget your money, figure out something that's going to benefit you when you do open your business and your LLC, that you've kind of pushed yourself to do that already. And I mean, knowledge is monstrous. Like, if you want to come in to be an agent in 2026, you have got to start to learn tech, the IT portion of it, the tech, the TMS systems and things like that. And you've got to have knowledge of the industry outside of just, the windshield view. You want that top-down view, like not only what's happening in logistics, but what's kind of happening at the ports a little bit, what's kind of happening at the rail a little bit, what's kind of happening with these court cases that are happening, at the Supreme Court, and like kind of start to actually dive into logistics. Because, if you're even just a truck driver and you're looking, I want to get out of this and I want to do that, you have a windshield view. And that windshield view is the trucking view, but it's not the logistical view. And it's these steps that are going to make it easier to transition from the W-2 to the 1099 position. Because you're right. What happens, I mean, it's very difficult. It's very easy to screw up and say, well, I still get my paycheck every week, compared to screw up and say, well, I just lost the only customer that I had income on, and it could take me 6 months before I win another one.
Yeah. What like speaking of that,
Yeah.
when you're out there and you're trying to develop business and lower your revenue exposure, and that's like a phase that I'm at in my business right now, where yeah, we have great customers that we're working with, but I know the side effects of being top heavy in business, right? Like, a lot of people, they operate 90% of their revenue is tied to one customer, right? And then they have some other ones filled in. So, like, a very large focal point of my business development efforts moving forward is lowering our revenue exposure rate. I would love to have my top 10 or my 10 customers that account for 100% of my revenue be as close to 10% as possible, because in the event something happens, right? Like, again, I don't operate with a unicorn, sunshine, and gumdrops viewpoint on the world. Like, I live in reality, and I understand shit happens sometimes in our control and outside of our control, and changes are made. I just want people to be prepared for that aspect of it as well, where it's like, hey, if you got that one core customer that accounts for 90% of your revenue, how like, from your perspective, then how fast should that person be working to lower that exposure?
It's time to find phase two, time to find customer two. I mean, you have got to, and this is the progression of growth, right? That's the difference between, and that's a very difficult thing I think for W-2s to process, because to you've got one customer, and that's the company paying you your W-2 pay, right? So, but in the world of growth, and in the world of you're growing your own company, that one customer paying it is not going to be enough. The purpose of a business is to grow the business. That's the purpose of your business. Grow your business. Now, there's going to be a point where you're going to reach a point where, like, well, I can't grow anymore until I bring on employees. I get that, but you should be looking to find another customer. Your goal is to establish a efficient way to quote and move the freight for that customer that you have, obviously. You know what I mean? Either with software, like the TMS systems and things like that. Or for me, like I said, I had my own brokerage, and I shut my own brokerage down and came over to SPI, right? Best decision I made, because now I can push all of this other stuff I don't have to deal with, and I can go over to this side and work and function on sales and operations. That's me, sales and operations. And then if I need some type of, but you should be focusing on what's the next step. I've got this customer secured. I know what they move. I know when they move it. I know when they need freight. I've got a system set up. They're going to email me. I got a quote system, how to quote them and everything else like that. I'm now comfortable with this customer. I now should be starting to branch out and find customer 2 because I'm efficient and productive with this one. Time to move to number 2. And you should be pushing to get number 2 in the minute you've reached being as efficient as you can. It's trucking. You're never going to be completely efficient, but as efficient as you can. And then you move to try to find one as soon as you can.
So you brought up the fact that you own your own brokerage, and then you shut that down and came on to SPI Logistics. And, I've talked to countless people over these last couple of years who were operating their own brokerage, but they increased costs with insurance, increased costs with technology, a bunch of stuff across the board. All of their costs were going up. And they were like, I don't know if I can afford to stay in business anymore because my margins are getting compressed higher and higher with my exposure rate of my overhead. And a couple of them have joined SPI. A couple of them decided to stay independent out there. And, the ones that I know that, again, I don't know what size, I don't ask people I don't ask what their numbers are because it's irrelevant to me. When people come to me with questions, I just give them my honest feedback in there. From your perspective, when you said the best decision you made was to shut your business down, your independent brokerage, and come on to SPI, what was the main driving factor of that decision?
So I had two decisions. One was obviously the exposure that I was going to start to reach because the industry is actually changing in regards to with technology and even changing in regards to possibility of nuclear verdicts and stuff like that. So one was going to be the exposure, and the type of freight that I move is super loads, especially, over-dimensional, 20-foot tall, 20-foot wide. So my exposure's even it's way out there, right? So that was one avenue that I basically did. And the customer that I have is a very large customer with opportunities for me to be able to bring in a lot of other companies that they own, right? They own a lot of other companies they were starting to buy up, which they wanted me to be able to, do this. So I can look at this and say, okay, should I, is it better for me to hire people and then have to have a TMS for everybody, and all these services that I would have to hire agents, or is it better for me to find a good company that can be my the back office support that was top of the line, because I'm a very picky individual. So trust me, if the SPI wasn't top of the line, I wouldn't be here because I am a control freak person when it comes to picking this. Where SPI, looking into it, they were able to provide that for me. So that freed me up to be able to say, perfect. I can now look to see who I want to hire, who I want to bring on to work these other additional locations for my customer, and still have the confidence that I don't have to handle all of this other stuff or while doing it. To me, I wasn't signing on. I look at this from a different point of view. Like a lot of people are like, well, they take this much of a percentage from me. I'm like, no, I pay them this much of a percentage for them to do this for me. And that's how I looked at coming over here. And that was kind of how SPI felt also, which I thought was perfect.
Yeah. And honestly, that's been my experience with them the literal entire time that we've been there, right? Like it is such a partnership that allows us. And again, because like I had no customers, right? Like I can't emphasize this enough when I talk to people. I had 0 customers, 0 business when I started. And we built it up, and we are continuing to build it up. But I look at it is like looking at those early phases of it.
Yeah.
And for us to, because like, again, fortunately, the customers that we have onboarded, they're established, they're big companies. You need insurance. You need a tech stack to be able to truly operate with them as you grow and scale. You can't just like have a makeshift operations. You need to have a full suite of services that are out there. And, again, we move a lot of equipment as well. Not every piece of equipment is 100,000. We have to buy riders where it's 300,000, 350, $500,000 for some of these machines that we're moving. And the fact that I can just go to SPI's back office, shout out to the back office team. They are the unsung heroes of SPI, and say cargo value, equipment name, this is what it's being used for. And then they get me a rider within minutes. Like, and then I can go in there. And again, I can pack a massive punch in the market as a startup. All right. Cause that's what we are. We're a startup. We're building out the infrastructure of our company, but like our customers will never feel that because we have the infrastructure on the tech side, the insurance side, the financial side of it as well. Cause that's a whole other question is, you know, when we're moving 80, 90, 100, 120, maybe $150,000 in revenue a month, you know, like that can add up quick if you don't have the cash flow to properly manage it. And that's one thing that I think gets a lot of people in trouble as they go out there on their own is they run out of money, you know, and then what? You know, like that's a whole other conversation that we can have on a different day. But like having that infrastructure in place to where I can go in, it does not matter. I could walk into Carlisle headquarters tomorrow and have a meaningful conversation with them and get onboarded with them, have however they tender their freight would be done. Like there would be no hiccups in that, right? Like, do you have that confidence as you're out there prospecting business right now? If you're out there on your own, or maybe you are an agent with another company, do they have those resources? Or maybe you've never sold into a Fortune 500 or 200 or 100 company that's out there. Is your current model or your agency that you're working with, are they willing to send somebody with you? Because like, dude, Mike Mikulik, he's been on the show a bunch of times. He's a friend of mine outside of all of this stuff. But like, dude, that guy's on a plane, I think every day it seems like, because he is willing to do that. Like if you've never had that conversation and you get to the finish line with a prospect and you've never done an RFP before, you don't know how to speak the language, they have those resources available for you, right? So it's like, that's why for me, they just let me be, right? Like we're out on our own island, like you're saying, like we call our own shots, we control our own destiny, but like they're our parachute. They're out there, they're like our frontline forces, making sure like they're there to protect us as we're going out there and building.
And the big aspect too, and one of the things that people need to realize in this industry now is that this industry is not like it used to be when I first came in, like I said, 20, 25 years ago. And I've been running my own brokerage before this was 18 years. You need lawyers now. You know, this handshake thing, like the contracts that I'm signing with some of the stuff that I move and the paperwork, the 25, for me to get set up with a shipper or a manufacturer to move some of the stuff I have, they have me setting, 25-page agreements that I'm like, oh, for the love of it. Like, it is not like it used to be. So that's another aspect of something you want to look at, though, is that if you are going to do your company, realize that when you start to, it's easy to go to mom and pop manufacturer and you're okay, right? I mean, that's might be a simple, purchase order type thing. But when you start to really grow, when you start to get out there and get into these, production meetings, I do a lot of production meetings with people. And I remember my first production meeting, I was like, deer in headlights. I'm good at them now. But before, they want it short, sweet, to the point, as fast as you can, and tell them what they have to know. But I'm a long talker anyway, so that didn't go well. But now it's just dealing with the legal aspect of things and having to understand that you're going to probably have to have a lawyer, bro. I mean, you're not going to get around some of these contracts that the manufacturers are sending to you, let alone, that's the world we live in regard to logistics now. It's not the same. And that's another aspect that, again, if jumping from the W-2 to 1099, if you do it right, is it worth it? Hell yeah, it's worth it. Hell yeah, if you have the drive, it's worth it. Do it wrong, and it might not look so worth it. But that's the homework. You have to do the research and the homework.
No, I agree, man. And that's, I'm glad you brought all that up. And, every single time I say this, everybody's always like, oh, that's all you pay your attorney. It's like, because there's always a fucking one up with all of this stuff. But it's like, man, I legitimately, I have an attorney for the media stuff, for my media company out there. And it's probably on average of $5,000 a year just for contract reviews and everything, just to ensure that everything's done. And, again, it's like, that's a whole other thing. Like having the right attorney. I say this on the show often, having the right attorney and CPA is the best two decisions you can make if you're going to be out there operating on your own. But you're right. I want to end it on a high note here, man. If for the right individual, there is nothing better to do than to go out on your own. And I never want anybody to mistake what I say as me trying to be a deterrent for people going out there. I just feel like I have a responsibility in the content that I produce and the information I put out there to tell the reality of what people should be faced with. And if you hear everything that I talk about on this show and you say, hell yeah, I'm in, go do it. I will be your number one fan for you to do that. But I just want people to be prepared for what they're about to embark upon.
100%. And that's the important part, because we could tiptoe around it or smooth you around it all day long, but I'd rather somebody be blunt and honest with me, so I know what to expect, so I can fight that battle than lie to me and schmooze me into something and get myself in trouble.
Dude, 100%, man. This flew by. I'll have you back on in the future, man. I feel like we could go for hours every time you're on the show, man. How does anybody reach out to you though, right? Like, how do they find your show? You got a podcast out there.
If you go to YouTube and you go to Sage Outcast X on YouTube, that's my channel. I do Tuesdays and Fridays. I do logistical stuff. And on Wednesdays, I do current events or a little bit of, what's going on, stuff like that. That show usually gets kind of wild. But yeah, Sage Outcast X on YouTube is the best way to find me.
Perfect. Hit him up, you guys. Erik's got good stuff out there. I always enjoy having him on the show. As you can tell, he's high energy. He is very passionate about it, and he will tell you his truth, right? And that's what's most important when you're out there trying to find content. But that's going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. As always, if you got value in what you heard and you're not subscribed, subscribe to the show, you guys. And if you're feeling ambitious, rank it on iTunes and Spotify, because if you see value, your network's going to see it as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Came back with a bang, window down, yelling out money, anything. Hey, ooh, got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when I'm getting to the bag. Hey, got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when the lane moving